Welcome to Secrets of a Bridal Seamstress podcast, where we hear stories from fellow seamstresses just like you. We're able to share their success stories. We learn from wedding industry pros for the best business tips, and we get to hear from fellow sewists and crafters to hopefully inspire our creativity and our love for sewing. I'm so glad that you're here. And if you're a bridal seamstress, I'd also like to invite you to check out our Bridal Seamstress business membership. We have a community of women that can testify to the power of genuine connection, friendship, vulnerability, the power of our six-figure seamstress method, and a genuine connection found in a business mentorship like this. All right, let's dive into the episode. Welcome back to another episode of Secrets of a Bridal Seamstress. I'm so excited for today's topic, all about marketing and the myths of marketing that some of my friends here are going to debunk. So this is Kate and Bridget from Engaged Marketing Company. They recently spoke in our SBS community and gave us great tips on how to plan for marketing during our busy season, because that's where we are. All of us are in the middle of busy season. We're not really thinking about like promoting ourselves until it comes to like winter time and we have nothing to show for the work that we've done. So they helped us plan ahead for that. And then for this podcast episode, we're going to be debunking some myths of marketing. So things that we think are true, but they're totally not true. And we have two pros to prove otherwise. So thank you guys so much for being here.
Thanks for
And
having us.
tackling a
We're excited.
topic that I think is pretty misunderstood. So I'm really excited about this. So before we dig in, how about you tell us about what engaged marketing is, who you serve, and how you kind of got together with this business?
Awesome. Well, I'd love to. So, Kate and I have been in the bridal industry for about 15 years or so. I have 3 bridal shops in Maryland, and last year we opened a seamstress studio. So, kind of entering into that world. And Kate's been with us for almost that whole journey, and I can't think of how many years now that we've had engaged, but for a while.
Since the pandemic, actually,
Yeah.
we rebranded. We had previously been more in like virtual assistant capacity with like different wedding vendors, not just bridal, but we have such a love for bridal stores and seamstresses and just like all things bridal. So we're excited to kind of be working with those clients these days.
Yeah. Yeah. So in our recent call, what I really appreciated about your approach to marketing is that you covered so many other topics beyond social media, which I think is a myth in itself that social media is our only form of marketing. So if it's okay with you, I'd like to go through different marketing avenues. And if you could tell us a common myth that you hear, and then maybe debunk that myth with the truth that you teach your clients and your own customers. So let's start with social media. What's a social media myth and how are you going to bust that myth?
I think a myth that I can think of is that, you need to have a fresh new piece of content on every platform, completely separate. You really can take kind of one idea and sort of repurpose and make sure that you can kind of maximize your time by having that one idea and putting it on several platforms.
I think sometimes we try to be thinking about like how can we possibly keep up with so many like ways of creating content, and awesome thing with being in the space and working on dresses, we're kind of we're such an expert on the subject matter that a lot of times we don't realize what we're doing is something we could just film and record content and then, like Kate said, repurpose it really. So maybe, on Facebook, it would be a post with some bullet points on the educational, where on Instagram, it could be more of a reel, watching you in action and having those things. But we don't have to think about like, okay, I have to be posting on all of these platforms and I have to do this over here and this over here and this. I mean, just get it one time and then kind of break it up a little bit. You can use it also for the blog posts and be able to say like, okay, I was talking about tips on how to do this over here on the reel. I can just literally write that up and put it in a blog post. And it's one thing that you can use over multiple places to really showcase yourself as the expert and connect with the bride and the customer without really having to multiply your time. You're kind of doing it once and then being able to use it in multiple places. I think it's super helpful to think of it that way.
For sure.
Yeah. Like you don't have to reinvent the wheel every time you post. I kind of had a little experiment for my local business. For the month of April, I ran a sale just for the month of April for like a spring cleaning and preservation sale. And that was the only thing I posted about all month. And like part of me, I was like, okay, I'm already going to get bored with this. But it was such a moneymaker because I had so many DMs from those consistent posts. Like that was the only topic I was covering for that whole month. And it made it easier for me because I wasn't coming to the app like what the heck am I going to talk about today? It was like, okay, here's another picture of a dirty dress or like a bride in a wedding gown and then, she's going to get the dress clean. I mean, it was the same message over and over. I think I posted like 12 times, but it made me money. So I was like, I can do this. I can stick to just one subject and just continue to post and share that and like not overthink it. So I got to see kind of the reward of that part of just like the reminding the clients like what it is that I'm offering this month or what the sale is. But it definitely had that perk of like not having to think about it too much because I was just doing the same thing everywhere.
I think that's a great point too, that, I think that a lot of times people think like it has to be perfect for it to be good. And it doesn't have to be this like perfectly curated like picture. Like honestly, these days people on social media, they want to see things that are genuine. They want to see like the real people that are making things happen. And
Mhm.
any of those little moments, like put it on social media, honestly, like just getting content out there is more important than making sure everything looks exactly perfect and that it's like original,
Yeah, yeah. Okay, well, those are like two myths that you debunked in one. So got that out of the way. You did touch on blogging, and I know blogging has been within our community kind of this like hot topic because it's something that we talk about a lot at retreats because we get so excited to get these things going, and then it's like, okay, how do we stay consistent? So what are some myths surrounding blogging, and how can you debunk those marketing myths?
I would say a big myth with blogging is because it's something I struggle with. I do the blogging for Engaged, and the weird part of it is if you would look at us, you would definitely think Kate would be the one doing it because she is the creative writer and I am not the creative writer. But with the way that our workload is divided, it's not really something that makes sense for her to have on her plate, and it falls more in line with my plate. So I have it in my brain like I shouldn't be doing this. I can't be doing this. No one's going to want to read what I write. I'm not a creative writer. That's just not my thing. I don't have time. Like there's a lot of things in my brain that I tell myself are true, and I have to be like, well, that doesn't matter because I need to do this thing. So I've just had to kind of move past it and realize like kind of something I think you just said recently, like good is better than not doing it at all. And so like the fact that I'm doing it is better than not doing it. And I had a mentor tell me a long time ago, like my third year in business, like good is good enough. And you are a perfectionist, so you've never thought that good is good enough. You only think perfect, so you don't do it at all. And she said having something is better than having nothing. And it really helped me to realize, okay, just write the blog. Like it's not going to be perfect, but I will say some really great things that have come along the way are the help of AI. So I can get stuck, but then I can ask it for help and I can use it to help me with my writing. Or sometimes I can use it for help with ideas because we put up consistent blogs all of the time and sometimes I run out of ideas. So I'll use it to really help me. And kind of what Kate was saying with that repurposing your content, I will pick an overarching theme and I'll break it down to take that one theme for the week and how I can use it for the blog, how I can use it on Instagram, how I can use it on Facebook, how I can use it in an email. And I now only have to take this one theme and kind of run with it across multiple places. So, I mean, we might not think we're the best person that even knows how to do it, but with the help of AI, I can ask it like, what are really good keywords around this topic that are going to give it the right SEO to actually get used and get found? And then, okay, great. Now I need to think about that when I'm writing. And then, I can ask it to clean up my, like, did my writing have like errors in it? It can clean that up for me and things like that. So I sometimes we think something in our head and we're just like really critical of ourselves. And it's okay. Like again, they want to see you more as a human anyway. Like just putting our voice out there makes us a human that they can connect with and be like, oh, I love her personality. She's so fun. I want to go work with her. And instead of, just like
And I think too, like with blogging, you kind of already touched on this, but like a big reason why a lot of us want to have a consistent blog is for the SEO and for like those, for the search words. And so when we get so caught in the weeds of like, how beautifully written this blog post is, it's like, who's really going, like filtering through everything? You know what I'm saying? I don't know. And when we
Yeah.
have clients who are looking for like specific answers, I know we talked about this in our training about having like a Q&A as a blog post or whatever. They're looking for the answers to their problems. They're not like judging your, you know, like your cadence, your writing cadence. It's like they just want to know the
Yeah.
answer. So overthinking, I think, is a detriment to a lot of us potential bloggers. So that's a great
Definitely.
tip.
The one thing I will say is that just what we had touched on in our last call was just how you don't need to have like keywords in every single, like the same keyword in your header, in your title, in each of your paragraphs. You know, that's not something that you really need to do to rank for that specific term. I think a really great, just like simple, easy way to do it is just like take out some paper or your notes app and just kind of write, you know, like keep track of what your customers are asking you. And those
Yeah.
are things people want to know. Those are things that people want to, that are going to search for those things on Google. And there's a really big rise in like voice to text Google searches, people who are just like talking into their phone, searching for things and phrasing things in a question format. Those things are on the rise because of like advancements in
Yeah.
technology, just making it easier for us to Google things. And so focusing on that, focusing on just kind of like what are some fresh ideas that are coming directly from my customers, just write truthfully on that, and you should be able to really get the same results rather than just putting those keywords everywhere in your blog.
Yeah. No, I love that. I remember you talked about that and I got so excited, like, I can do this. Okay. Okay, this is something I want to talk a little bit about email marketing. And since you said you recently opened like a seamstress or bridal seamstress shop, you understand how we kind of go back and forth. Like, is it worth it for us to have an email list? Like, what do we do with that? Because just with the nature of what we do and how we have like a one-time customer. So, do you have any myths surrounding email marketing specifically for like a one-time service-based business? And how would you debunk that myth?
Yeah. I definitely think the myth is that everyone thinks email is dead. Like they try to tell
Yeah.
us all the time, like, I don't need an email list, it's dead. And it's like, but it isn't dead, and like it's the one thing we kind of own, like, you know, on social
Right.
media, like, you know, there was the whole TikTok thing where it shut down and all that stuff. Like we work so hard on our social media platform, but we don't own those leads and they could be gone tomorrow.
Mhm.
And with our email list, like we do know that those are our customers, and if we lost all of our social media platforms tomorrow, we still actually have our contacts to our customers. And I think that's huge to have that. And so I would say we've incorporated texting alongside of email just because our brides tend to be there more. But it is for us all working in bridal, it is kind of a one-time transaction. But even what you just brought up is a really good example. So running the promotion for gown cleaning or something like that, I mean, that is another service that you're adding on. So it's really great to, you know, schedule that email blast right after busy season that goes out to all the brides and it's like, hey, now that you've done all the big things, like you can get your dress clean. And I think another big piece to it is being able to get referrals from them. So
Mhm.
honestly, just like enough of a touch now and again reminds them how great you were at helping them with their dress alterations, that when now their friend needs it, she'll remember who you are. And I think we think that they're just going to remember us, but we are a one-time thing. So if we don't remind her of us, she's going to have a friend who needs your service, but she's not going to remember who you are. And by you just having that email to her every now and then, it's easier to remember, oh yeah, I know my seamstress. She emails me. Let me go find that. Oh yeah, here's who she was. She was amazing. Please go to her.
Yes.
Don't waste time anywhere else. It just keeps you in her mind. And I think referral and word of mouth is what, for most of us, that's where the traffic is coming from. But if you
Yeah.
like don't have that connection to her, she probably won't remember, you know. So
Yeah.
it's just the touch point. You have something?
Definitely. Yeah, I agree. I think we are like a kind of a one and done business where a customer has a very short, you know, lifespan with us and working with us. So I think it's important to remember, you know, like email is something that isn't just for acquiring new customers. It's something where you can re-engage people through the process. Maybe if you have items that you need to upsell and they're, you know, existing clients with you, maybe they're in that term of I'm getting fittings done. Maybe that's another way to upsell certain products that maybe you wouldn't do in the moment at your store. It's just another way to hit that up. Or again, with like asking for referrals or reviews, there's a lot of opportunities for email to help with just re-engaging customers, even if they don't come back for that main service.
Yeah. Yeah. And just getting creative with like how to even like keep the emails. Because I think for a lot of us who have like a CRM, it makes it easier. But if you aren't in that boat yet and you're like, I'm just working with my Gmail, well, just you can make a folder with your past brides. You can start simple and free to organize the contacts and then kind of like build your way up. But these are great ideas of what you can do, even though you think the client is like done and moved on. Some of them you do want them to be done and you don't want them to come back. And I get that. But for the ones that you do want still in your life, you can have the choice to give them reasons to come back. So I'm having a kind of like a, not a reopening, but I got the keys to my storefront in 2020, in spring of 2020. So like my opening was kind of like because nobody could do anything. So I'm having new window signage made and I'm going to kind of make it a big event. And I'll be inviting all of my past brides, you know what I mean? Because I have their information that I've kept and I've just kind of, I've tried to keep in touch even just like through social media or whatever, but obviously not with all the brides. But in cases like that where you have an event or promotional thing, like you're going to want to have that contact information on hand and it won't be like so weird to be coming out of the blue to send them an invitation for something special. So email marketing is not dead.
And I think
No.
that, like, a lot of times when a bride is getting married, like, there's kind of the spider web of everyone in her life around her that will be doing the same. So she might be the first point of contact with you when she comes in for her wedding dress alterations. But then in the course of the next 5 years, she might need to have bridesmaids' dresses altered for all of their weddings. And then she can bring the bride with her too for all of those things. So I think just keeping that communication, and then maybe her sister or her cousin, like there's just gonna kind of, it tends to be like we have to work on nurturing her to remember us, to come back to us with all of those other people. And I think that that's just an easy way to do it, having that contact to her.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I feel like I just have maybe one more. And then if you want to give us things that I've missed, are there any myths surrounding in-person networking? I know that even like the term networking is like, ugh, but like in-person connections, or is there a myth surrounding that? I can think of a couple, but I want you to start with what you've seen.
Yeah, I mean, probably that you need to wait, for there to be sort of a networking event for you to jump in on. I feel like you don't really need to wait for an
Mm-hmm.
event that you can like register for and you go. Like you can find like networking opportunities on your own and even host your own events
Yeah,
that are really, I think people are sort of craving that in-person connection.
totally.
Um, so it's definitely something that I think you can initiate and find a lot of really great local contacts in your area. I know a big referral source is like bridal shops. And so that's something that's always, something that's really proactive to do. I think that there's, a lot of opportunities there. We just have to kind of like go after the opportunity and not kind of wait for it to come to you.
Yeah.
But other thoughts?
Yeah, I would agree that right now, actually, I just did a mastermind. I was talking about how everything's changing so much this year and people are craving in-person connection more than being on social media. So I think those opportunities are going to be bigger and more important to be a part of. And so I do think a lot in the wedding industry, there are a lot of opportunities, but also I think because of COVID, they did drop off. So it's something that we're trying to revive with kind of in our businesses. We just did a local wedding vendor meetup, and it was small. It was, the first one out, but everyone really, really loved it. And the seamstress like manager was so like they were all asking for her card and her information. They were like, this is one thing that brides always ask us about. They never know where to go and like who to work with. And so I think it's uncomfortable to put ourselves out there, and we're busy, and it can be really hard, but I don't know, I felt like the energy around it was everybody just was like, wow, this was so needed. And it really actually, I'm leaving feeling so much more renewed because I was around other people who were in it doing the same thing I'm doing, even though we're all different services, but
Right.
work with a bride, and we all know that that means
Same
giving a lot
energy.
of
Yeah.
ourselves, and kind of we can be drained. So it was nice to re-energize each other by being together and being like, I go through that and I go through that, and oh my gosh, that we could just really make each other, it felt very renewing after being in
Yes. Yeah.
that way. And then it does really start to spiral that, okay, I've got the bride, I can send them your way, and all of that kind of thing. So it really was, I think it's something that we tend to be too busy to entertain sometimes, and we have to get out of like, oh, I have to go put myself out there. But you know what, that's how everyone else is feeling too. So
Yeah.
just
Yeah. And
showing
I love
up.
how you said, don't wait for an event. Like every time I've invited someone to like dinner or let's get coffee or let's just go for a walk, everybody says, okay, like I've never been turned down because people just want to connect. And so it doesn't need to be something like you said, something you have to register for. It could just be like, hey, like let's meet at the lake and walk around the lake, whatever, for a lunch break, and that I think people want to feel seen and feel like they have a friend in the industry. And it's always surprising how much I hear, like, yeah, I don't really have like friends around. You know what I mean? Like I hear that a lot, or like people who don't have friends in this industry or in the business. And so like that's just such a huge encouragement for me. Like my friends are where I get rejuvenation, you know what I mean? Or like get that inspiration again. And so hearing how rare that is, it should give us more confidence to just be the one to initiate because like one of you had mentioned, like everybody is feeling the same way, not wanting to initiate, not wanting to like leave the house, everybody wants to put their pajamas on as soon as they come home. So nobody wants to plan an after work dinner, but once you're doing the thing, it's rewarding. So, do you have tips for planning your own event? Because I've hosted a few things at my local shop. Obviously, we have retreats for Secrets for Bridal Seamstress, but my own events that I've hosted at Sweet Francis Sewing Co. I feel like they were more popular too because there weren't many things happening after COVID. And I haven't hosted like a mixer in a while, but do you have any tips about kind of taking charge and hosting your own maybe larger event that people would have to register for? What are the first steps to get that going?
I
And when I
would say,
say larger, I mean like more than two people.
yeah.
Giving people plenty of notice, I would say is number one. Like definitely give at least like a month advance to like make sure people can make it. But I think too, like not just reaching out once, like, keeping up the communication and seeing,
Yeah.
are people available? Go ahead.
I encourage them to bring a friend. I was like, I'm
Mm.
sure you have a vendor friend in the industry space, like bring them along. And I think that helped people to show up by bringing the friend because
Mm.
it like they didn't feel so like, oh, I have to go to this
Yes.
thing. They already knew they had someone with them in their corner. So I was like, hey, this is going to be a really fun night. Bring a friend in the space. Like, let's all get together. And so the events that we had were they brought a friend. It made the group a little bit bigger and it automatically made the comfort zone a little better because they know
Yes.
like when they came. And
Yeah.
yeah, we didn't go over the top. We just had like a tiny little like charcuterie essentially and some like fun little seltzer waters and stuff. Like just, it was very easy looking.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it was just like,
It's
hey,
approachable. Yes.
and we did a lot of
Give notice and bring a friend. We can do that. So,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Are there any other myths? Because I know that this is like what you do. So, with who you work with wedding pros, with marketing, are there myths that you see or things that people just kind of have stuck in their heads about marketing and you get to dispel those? Are there any things that we haven't touched?
So I think maybe a myth is that like you like all of like your marketing kind of takes place on like digital marketing channels. Like you don't need to like focus only on digital marketing to promote your business. And I know maybe that's something that is a lot of people already think about, but I would say that a big marketing tactic that's kind of growing strength this year is like in-person events and open houses and things like that. And so I think people maybe don't see the value in that quite yet, where it's really something that is helpful for people, especially in our type of industry where it's helpful to see the inside of someone's space and studio, and there's so many questions about how we do things and what we do, especially from like the customer, from the bride. I feel like brides have so many questions about what alterations looks like and what the process is and who's going to be working on my dress. That I think some sort of open house for brides would be really helpful for a lot of seamstresses just to kind of really get more exposure for your name and also just kind of gathering contacts for actual potential customers. That's a good way to build leads.
Yeah, I love that. And I love hosting, so I get excited about that kind of stuff.
I think I thought of one that we touched on a little bit in the community call, and it was like, I don't have time to be worried about responding to reviews or engaging on the socials and all of that. And what I'll say to kind of that point is we have a lot on our plates all the time and there's a lot going on. So don't maybe put that pressure on yourself, but think like, is there anyone in my circle I think I said this and it might sound crazy, but like your mom, she could be like 70 years old, but does she have, does she, my mom sits on her phone playing games. She would happily go on, and if I gave her what to say, she could reply to reviews or, reply on the comments on my Instagram or things like that. I have a 24-year-old that lives with me that can help me in all of those ways. But is there anyone in your close, like, group that wouldn't mind spending 5 minutes and just like helping you out in that way? Because we do have a lot and we can't possibly do it all, but there are certain things that are really helpful in our business. So asking those brides for the reviews is huge and getting them, but trying to respond to them is equally important for Google to really recognize all the work that you are doing to get those good reviews, because the last thing you want is that one bad one to come along, which, let's be honest, someone's going to leave a bad one much more likely than a good one. And then that's the only one we're responding to. And really, that doesn't look great for the customer or, in Google's eyes, but mostly the customer's like, oh, interesting. She only had a response to this negative one and not to anyone else.
Yeah.
Like how can we make sure it doesn't need to be a whole lot. It just needs to be something that recognizes that you saw it and responded. And it could be one day out of the month where someone takes, 15 minutes and just goes in and puts those responses on there. But they do really, really help in the Google ranking and how you're doing. And I think it's important because it helps you kind of keep your business at the top of those Google searches when the more you're active in your Google business profile. Just putting up a post or answering reviews and getting more reviews and keeping that profile really healthy, but don't feel like you have to do everything alone.
Yeah, that's a great one. You don't need to do it alone. That's like a great synopsis of the whole call. So you can delegate or get some help with AI or with people in your community. That's great.
I mean, it's something we offer help with in our services, because we know that not everyone can sit and do all of that. Like, we know it's so important. So like, that's one of the things that's like on the foundation of our packages, is helping get reviews and respond to them, because we know it is really big in your SEO for that.
Yes.
So,
yeah. So I feel like we packed so much information in like this half-hour episode. So thank you. We debunked all the things. And I think there's so many like actionable takeaways, which I love. I love when people can listen to an episode and be like, okay, I'm literally going to start doing this thing tomorrow. But can you tell us about what services you do offer for wedding pros? Because as we're listening and thinking this sounds great, but I can't add another thing to my plate, how would seamstresses work with you? And I love seamstresses who are listening. Did you catch that they have their own seamstress boutique or sewing boutique? So it's like they get the lingo. They're one of us. So please tell us what you can do specifically for bridal seamstresses.
So we offer a lot of services. A lot of them focus on like making sure that you are recognized locally and that you have a really great local footprint in your area. A big piece of that is making sure that your Google business profile is up to date and that you're making consistent updates. So posts, asking for reviews, responding to reviews, these are all things that we offer as a service. In addition to just kind of making sure that every opportunity on that profile is being taken advantage of. So we do that. We also do a lot of work on making sure that your website is findable, searchable on Google, and that it actually is working to get you either leads or emails or calls or taking that action. I think a lot of times people come to a website, and if it's not easy to find where you're located or your contact information or what your services are right off the bat, then they will just bounce and go to another site. And so that's something that every business struggles with is, okay, I have all these people coming to the site, but nothing's happening. How does that translate into actual people coming into my studio or booking appointments? And so one of the things that we specialize in is making sure that that website is an actual tool for you to book more clients. And so we will like kind of go in and make sure that the design is great and that we have every method for like contacting you readily available and all that. We'll go to make sure all that's happening. We also take care of your SEO. So we'll make sure that you get listed for those like high search keywords and things like that. Those are things that we focus on also. And then
like the blogging.
We handle blogging, content writing. Yes.
Email.
Pretty much when it comes to content, pretty much everything short of social media. But in that case, we have kind of like Canva templates and things like that to help with that, facilitate that process too, with kind of content ideas and things like that we offer to our clients also. So
I feel the pressure releasing when you were just talking about what you could do. So thank you. We're going to have all of your information too listed in our show notes. So if we have listeners who are like, I am at that point, or maybe even if you're thinking, okay, we're in 2025, you're having a really busy year, you don't want to have 2026 feel the same way. This is the time to start thinking about how you can delegate, like you gals already talked about, like who else can do the stuff that you can't handle. And this is the time to start thinking about it, because if we can imagine this is busy season, what would busy season feel like without having to worry about all these things that were just listed? So start imagining your life without that extra pressure, so that by 2026 you can prepare yourself for like getting that weight off your shoulders. And now we have a great resource for that. So thank you so much. Do you have any events coming up or things that do you go to Wedding MBA?
I think we're gonna attend this
We're
year.
attending, yes.
Yay, I'm speaking. So I'm so excited. So
Oh.
I'll give you a hug in person. Yay.
Yeah, that'll be great.
We are also working on a webinar that we're hoping to be bringing out there, just a free webinar, hopefully in May, potentially June. So we'll start putting that out there soon on what's our topic that we selected?
It was to help with the leads and the traffic. So
Yes, lead generation.
Ooh,
Yeah,
okay,
so,
great.
yeah,
Okay.
and then we
Share
do
that
have
with me, and I'll be blasting it too once you have that ready.
Oh, great. Thank you. We also have a weekly newsletter that we put out every week. So feel free to sign up for that on our websites, engagemarketingcompany.com. And yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you so much. And then we'll have their social media info on the show notes too. So if you're listening, you can just click on those links and get in touch with these gals. Thank you so much for your time. And I know our members who were part of the community call last week, I mean, I'm still hearing like, oh my goodness, my mind was blown. So it was so impactful. Thank you so much. Yeah. Thank you.
thank you.
for
All
having
right.
us.
Well, I will see the rest of you on Friday for our 6-figure Friday tip of the week, and hope you guys enjoy the rest of your day. Thanks for spending this half hour with us.